That breaking news coverage tonight of former president now being a convicted felon. Verdict rendered by the Manhattan jury this afternoon. They deliberated for a day and a half, guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records in an effort to commit or conceal another crime.
A rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
This verdict means nothing for Donald Trump's ability to run for president. And he, I think, will likely, as we were just talking about, get no prison time. Any sentence probably will not be served until after the election, after he's exhausted any appeals. But these are low-level felonies, right? People say, 34 felonies. It's all the same. It's basically one felony, and it's going to be treated as one felony for sentencing, in effect. Right? And keep in mind, when you're talking about the sentence, right, first-time offender, possibility of up to 4 years. You know, you watch MSNBC, and they'll all be telling you, oh, prison time is coming. I don't think that's going to be happening when sentencing happens on July 11th. But let's bring in Megyn Kelly, attorney, journalist, host of the Megyn Kelly Show, which is on Sirius XM Triumph Channel every weekday, who is also killing it on YouTube and beyond. Megyn Kelly, good to see you. All right, let me ask you this. You heard what I was just talking about, right? I've said this before. I think this is a case that shouldn't have been brought for a variety of reasons. But do you disagree that once it was brought, it was pretty clear that an objective juror who just evaluated the evidence would say, yeah, he falsified records, and yeah, he was trying to protect his campaign?
No. I believe this jury had no choice but to conclude as it did, because the judge led them right to the fountain of guilt and said, drink, horsey, drink. So they did. So I don't have much disdain for the jury or its decision, because they followed the instructions that this judge gave them. But I have a lot of disdain for this judge, and not to mention this prosecutor. And I think they were working in concert the entire time to do one thing, which is fulfill Alvin Bragg's campaign promise to get Trump. And I have to say, I really disagree with what Cuomo said a minute ago, which is Trump only has himself to blame for this particular problem. That's just not true. That he has a partisan hack of a DA to blame for this particular problem, a DA who doesn't want to prosecute any crime unless it's by a man named Trump. The number of legal hoops that he had to jump through in order to bring this case in the first place were too numerous to outlay on this brief program. And he had a judge who allowed it at every turn, to the point where, I mean, the past couple of days, Dan, I've been talking to Garagos, Dershowitz, Mike Davis, Dave Ehrenberg. These are guys on all sides of the political aisle, not just lefties or righties, who still are confused about exactly what it was Trump was charged with. So the judge was complicit, and it was not a valid claim, not from the start.
But
it
again,
certainly wasn't Trump's fault.
You're separating out almost the moral from the legal. I mean, Cuomo was making a moral point, I think, to some degree, which is that there's wrongdoing here, right? There was definitely wrongdoing. Whether it should have been a crime is a separate... What's the wrongdoing? What's the wrongdoing? All right, number one, it's paying $130,000 to a porn star to keep her quiet. That's to try to protect your campaign. Can we at least agree that's wrong?
That's not illegal.
I didn't say it was... No, I just said moral versus legal.
How is it wrong? Are we talking moral?
I made it clear. I'm making it clear. For a minute, I'm talking about morality versus legality, right? There's no doubt that he engaged in...
All right, I'll tell... Here's my response to that, and I said this on my show the other day. I don't know what kind of weird marriage these two have. Same as I didn't know what kind of weird marriage Bill and Hillary Clinton had. So I don't know what their covenant is in terms of what he's allowed to do on the outside of his marriage.
Again, I don't mind the sex, but when you're paying $100,000... But I'm not talking about the sex. I'm talking about the $130,000 to keep her quiet to protect his campaign.
Immoral. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing.
Really? Okay. Look, again,
if somebody runs for office, they just lose the right to have any privacy. They just have to let us see all of their dirty laundry from the moment they declare forward, or somehow they've done something morally wrong or legally wrong.
When you're doing it to protect the campaign and you are spending money on it, then now I'm going to switch back to the legal. You are now crossing the line into legal problems. Right?
You aren't. That's absolutely not right. Incorrect at every level.
Again, the idea that let me back up. And you don't think he falsified business records either?
I don't know what he did. I don't think he wrote down.
What does that mean? We just had a whole trial. We heard every detail of this. How can you not know?
Let me answer.
Please.
Let me answer. I don't think he wrote down hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. Nobody who pays hush money would write down such a thing. I think he wrote down, or someone at the Trump organization wrote down, legal expenses from the drop-down Adobe menu. And that made as much sense as anything else because hush money wasn't an option. He was paying his lawyer who had made the payment to Stormy Daniels, and he was, I believe, reimbursing her, though he denied that, reimbursing him, though he denied that on the stand. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. I think you pay your lawyer money because he outlaid money for you. You could easily classify that as a legal expense.
No matter what it's for, right? Even if it's illegal conduct, you can just put it, it's an legal expense, right?
This wasn't illegal. There's nothing illegal about paying hush money for an NDA. It's done
There's not.
all the time.
But when you're doing it to protect your campaign, it is. That's the difference.
No. What law are you citing, Dan?
Campaign finance laws. You're not allowed to give the...
You don't know what you're talking
about.
What are you talking?
You're wrong. Explain to me. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. When you're spending $130,000...
I'll explain.
Go ahead.
I get it, because you're saying that there are limits to the campaign contribution somebody could make, and this has exceeded them, and then they hit it. I understand. That's his theory. However, this has been wrong from the start.
Yeah.
It does not amount to a campaign contribution if it is the kind of payment that could ever be made outside of the campaign context.
That's not the standard. The standard is substantiality. It's not. It's substantiality.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You're wrong.
Okay.
No, it's not.
I guess we're going to have to agree to
There's been Supreme Court precedent on this. Talk to Brad Smith, who was the FEC commissioner.
Court that the standard is substantiality. All right.
Wrong.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that. But let's talk about the judge for a minute, because you're angry at the judge, too. And, look, I have concerns about this whole one of three things it could be, et cetera. But, this is a judge who didn't allow in the Access Hollywood tape, right, even though the prosecutors wanted it. He didn't allow other women to testify. He didn't allow other women to testify, as the prosecutors wanted. He kept out jurors who the prosecutors wanted. I mean, again, if this guy's just a hack, right, he gets no credit, right? The guy can't get any credit for anything he does because, and again, this is coming from someone who said he should have recused himself.
I know. He gagged the former president of the United States, who, for the first time in almost 250 years, we charged the former president, then he gagged him.
Understanding not from criticizing him. He was allowed to criticize the judge.
That he wouldn't let him say anything about the jury. Trump said the jury, they're all Democrats. He got fined. He got in trouble for that. Why can't he say the jury's all Democrats? That's his opinion. It's mine, too. He's running a presidential campaign while he's facing these unprecedented charges. That was ridiculous. But by far the most ridiculous thing he did, the most ridiculous thing, was he allowed in Michael Cohen's guilty plea, allegedly on this campaign finance violation, and David Pecker's cooperation agreement with the feds, non-prosecution agreement. He backdoored that in. The only testimony the jury heard about campaign finance law was from those two, from lay witnesses, talking about how they pleaded guilty to the same scheme Trump is accused of, and then he banned Trump's witness on the same subject, campaign finance law.
And that'll be an appeal issue, and I think it's a legitimate question. But isn't there a possibility that he wasn't doing it because he's this biased guy who's out to get Donald Trump, and instead just did it the same way judges make mistakes every day sometimes, or don't make mistakes if people disagree with their rulings? I
don't think so. If you watch this judge throughout the trial, all the rulings went Bragg's way.
That's not true. I just listed a whole bunch.
It's like Brad had a partner in crime. Not to mention the Stormy Daniels testimony, which they asked him to limit. He said no. And then when she started to go off the rails, he says, geez, I thought you'd object more. Susan Neklace is saying, you just told me it was allowed. That's why she didn't object more. She should have objected more. But that was on Judge Merchan. As you point out, he shouldn't have been holding the case in his courtroom to begin with. He was conflicted and he should have recused. And he also should have granted the change of venue motion. What would have been so bad about having this case tried in a jurisdiction that has some Republicans, has some people who don't hate Donald Trump? If it was such a great case, Dan, why couldn't it have gone to Staten Island or Long Island or Rockland County?
Because the standard is not what is the political makeup of a jury pool. I mean, that's not the standard that's ever been used ever in any case in America.
Understand. But would you concede that we have crossed the Rubicon here? We're plowing new ground for the first time in 235 years, indicting a former sitting president
That's a separate
who
issue.
is now going to be the Republican nominee.
I agree on that.
In this case, politics is playing a much bigger role than in your average case.
Yep, I agree.
So it should have been bounced. Why not then? Why not try it if it's so great?
Because
try
it's not the standard. The standard is not the why not standard. The standard is not the why not standard. The standard is the why standard.
The standard is you do what you can to give the defendant his right to a fair trial. You make sure that he gets a jury of his peers. That didn't happen to Donald Trump.
Let me ask you about the political impact, all right? There are a lot of people who are now saying, and in fact, there was a caller who called in a few minutes ago saying he wasn't going to vote, now he's going to vote for Trump. I think there are going to be a lot of people, right of center folks, who are going to be lashing out, in addition to the folks who are on the right, who are going to be lashing out at the verdict. You have people, talking, but there was a poll that was taken of independents. I find it hard to believe when the question was, would you be more likely to vote for Donald Trump, less likely, in connection with this case? Or doesn't it make a difference if he's convicted? Independents, more likely, 11%, less likely, 23%, no difference, 63%. I still think it's going to be a net positive for Trump, but I don't know. What do you think?
I've been watching those same polls, and you can find a fair amount of Republicans who say the same. And I know most people are like, no way, MAGA's never going, and I agree on MAGA. But there are those suburban soccer moms who don't really love Trump, who were considering voting for him. Maybe they voted for Biden in 2020, and now their lives aren't so great, the inflation and all of it. I think he could lose some of those women.
Really?
In particular. I think they're reflected in these polls, and I'm worried about them. And it's one of the things that makes this so outrageous. It's why Alvin Bragg's so happy tonight, and Letitia James is tweeting out similar sentiments to his. It's why MSNBC is positively gleeful tonight. Mm-hmm. It's why, for the first time, they feel happy, because you heard Chris Hayes lament, I guess democracy is really going to have to do it. The voters are the only ones we can rely on to stop him. Oh, wait. In like an angel comes Alvin Bragg and Judge Merchan and this jury to possibly give the voters a reason not to do it. But I do think net, Republicans will be more motivated than they've ever been. There won't be rain. What is the postal saying? Neither rain, nor sleet, nor hail, nor snow. None of it is going to stop Republicans from getting to those votes, those voting boxes on that Tuesday. And I don't think the Democrats will feel the same.
And finally, we were talking about Alvin Bragg. Both of us agree on the fact that he shouldn't have brought the case. But a separate question is why he brought the case, right? Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that he's sort of serving as an arm of the DOJ. My belief is that he brought this case to protect himself, meaning this is right on the heels of the fraud case not being brought. He's getting heat from the former prosecutor. The left is angry at him. And he says, oh, I'll bring this other case. And the Biden, if this was the Biden DOJ, they could have brought up this case themselves. They didn't. And Alvin Bragg is bringing it, and I think in the end is probably going to end up helping Trump. Do you think that he brought this as a way to try to help Biden in the election, or just to help himself?
I think it had dual purpose. I think he definitely ran for office promising to get Trump. You could find 20 sound bites of him saying exactly that over and over. But I think for partisan Democrats, it's an easy twofer. They really have been looking at the lawfare as a way of stopping Trump, who they see as an existential threat to the country and all they hold dear. Just listen to them. I mean, they're saying it all over the place.
You think he did it for that reason? I mean, again, do you think the Biden DOJ was behind? I mean, again, the Biden DOJ could have brought the case, right?
Yes, but I don't think they wanted their fingerprints quite all over it in that manner. But look, I mean, we know that in the Fani Willis case, there's been some consulting at the White House and with the White House. There's zero doubt in my mind, if you read Politico, that the White House has been very unhappy with Merrick Garland for dragging his feet on the two federal cases against Trump. Mm-hmm. So are you asking me to believe that there's been no interference with Alvin Bragg? I don't believe that there hasn't been. I believe this White House would be involved. They've been hyper partisan on everything else. And this is Biden's best chance. At least it was in his mind. Well, when they indicted the guy, they really thought this was going to help them. It wasn't until the public revolted that they realized this was actually a bad move. This is backfiring.
How could this case ever help them? Ever? And then if this case was brought, I said, this is crazy. This is going to help Trump politically, no matter what the outcome is.
They
Anyway,
didn't know that. You got to put yourself back in the mindset a year plus ago when they
that
indicted.
was
They thought,
the minute they brought it, I said this. But anyway, look.
but you're not a.
Maybe I'm just so incredibly
you're slightly.
savvy.
I know you're center, but my point is you're not a hardcore partisan on the left like these folks are.
Megyn Kelly, thank you for coming on the program. Always great to chat with you. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.